When training for a marathon, we often develop some quirky habits that allow us to get through our sessions. Today, I'm going to share 5 habits that have helped me to train for almost 3 marathons now. Let's get into it. The first habit that I've developed is to train at the same time when I get out for my runs. As a full-time worker, time is a very precious resource. It was important to prioritize my training to ensure I could actually run the marathon distance. So that ended up being in the mornings throughout the work week, and factoring in that I would have to then travel over an hour to get to my workplace. But as I started to progress through my training, my body clock started to adapt to it, making it a little bit easier to get up on those cold winter mornings. But one of the positive takeaways from my marathon trainings being around the 16 to 20 week mark was it actually allowed me to develop this habit to be an ongoing piece of my routine. While I've usually been a morning person, the fact that I was training 6 days a week now was a complete shock to the system, so I was waking up very tired in the initial stages once trying to develop this habit in the first place. And while I wouldn't have thought of this when first initially starting this habit, the fact that I was getting up so early, especially on the weekends, almost prepared me for race day. Particularly on the weekends when I was getting up early, this was ensuring that I got up early enough to have my breakfast in time, allowed it to digest, and then eventually head out for my run. And as someone completely new to marathon running, this was almost a weekly experiment to actually get the pre-race preparation right come race day. The second habit that I've developed over the course of my marathon training is to hydrate with electrolytes. As I've started to train more often and have seen quite a dramatic increase in my mileage from when I first started marathon training, my body requires a lot more fuel. Hydrating with electrolytes during my training sessions has allowed me to replenish those electrolyte stores that are usually drained quite easily over the course of a run, and also to even commence that recovery process in time for my next session, usually the following day. And I also find that I feel more energized when taking them, both during the runs but also afterwards when I'm replenishing those electrolytes, usually knowing when my body is craving something in particular, more often than not being salt. While it can be a little inconvenient carrying a soft flask with no handle really attached to it, it has provided that little pick-me-up over the course of a run when sometimes I'm getting out there and just not feeling it for that day. And it's a super convenient resource if I am feeling a little thirsty and the next water tap is a few kilometers away. The third habit that I've developed over the course of my marathon training is to prepare the day prior. If there's one thing that I've learned about training for a marathon, it's that you're running a lot. And there's quite a bit of brain work that goes into getting out there. I've found preparing all my running gear the night before a run an underrated habit that I've developed that has streamlined my marathon training process. From the shoes that I wear for my sessions, all the way to the nutrition that I have after the session is completed. This saves so much time, especially during the work week where I'm almost back out the front door within the hour. And how can I forget long runs, which are an entire process in themselves too, requiring both hydration and nutrition to be factored in. A flat lay of all the necessary items I need for a long run, like my nifty GoPro, is a Friday night ritual for me. The fourth habit is to get help when needed. As someone who is quite stubborn and tends to turn down help that I'm usually offered, this has been a lesson that I've learned over the course of marathon training and seeing how beneficial it is. Niggles and injuries are very common when it comes to marathon training, so reaching out to physiotherapists, osteos, and my running coach when I was first training for a marathon have been a habit that I've taken on very seriously. And I believe reaching out for help has been a habit that has allowed me to train so consistently for the 3 marathons. Over the last year or so, this has been consulting with a physiotherapist, a previous running coach, and currently seeing an osteo. Seeking professional help has allowed me to get on top of any niggles or would-be injuries before it derails my marathon training. Often, this has actually been minor modifications to my current training load, potentially doing more cross-training over the course of the week, or even focusing on more strength training. Speaking of strength training, I believe getting a dedicated running strength program from my physio, but also with additional exercises from my osteo for this year's current marathon training, has been a game changer in allowing me to maintain pretty much an injury-free slate over the course of my marathon training. If we look at our training age, which is usually how long you've been completing a physical activity or a particular sport, My marathon training age is only 1, so even I'm still quite new to this entire marathon training scheme, but haven't been sidelined for a major period of time. The 5th habit is getting consistent sleep. Sleep becomes a priority when I start to train for a marathon, and is one of the reasons I'm able to get out for a run 5 days of the week. The sleep in I also get on a rest day really allows my body to recover after the week of training and in preparation for the next week, which is usually an increase in mileage. And I'll admit too, sometimes it gets to a point in marathon training where my body just needs additional rest, so may opt to have an extra rest day just to have an extra sleep in. It's about listening to your body, and I feel like you develop this skill as you start to get into your running more. There's no point in overdoing it and not being able to run the race you've been training all those months for. So there we have it. 5 habits that have helped me train for almost 3 marathons, with the 3rd one just around the corner. And you know what can help develop these running habits? Having a consistent running schedule. I've got you covered here with this video. I'm Jack, and I'll see you next time. Catch up.